Hello and welcome to the introduction to Crosstabs when using Cognos Report Studio. In this video, I'll show you how to create basic crosstabs that look similar to what we have shown here. And we'll build off of a previous list that we have built in a previous video. The previous list that we have is this one here, pretty simple, where it has year, product type, quantity, and revenue. So the main difference is, of course, that this is a crosstab, and that we've added the products column into this crosstab as well. So to start, the easiest thing to do is to add into this query the product field. And I'm just going to add that sorting method for that column as well. There. So now if I run this report, we should get the same data, except it appears differently than our crosstab behind this sheet. Okay, so now to get started in building the crosstab, there's two ways to do it. You can either convert this list using the button, this one here, pivot list to crosstab. That will change our list into a crosstab, but first let's show you how to create a crosstab from scratch. So you go into the toolbox tab and simply drag a new crosstab onto the report. You can give it a name if you like, but because I already have a query, this list behind, I'm going to pick that query and use that data instead of creating a new query. And one other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show these side by side just for comparison. Normally you probably wouldn't do this, but I'll just do that really quick here too. I'm going to create a table with 3 columns. I'm not going to have it span the entire page. And here you can see it at the bottom, and I'm going to click the corner, the 3 dots, and drag it into the 3rd cell. And you can see there's still 2 cells remaining. And I'm going to take this list, click and drag on the 3 dots, and drag it into the first one. So now I can see the 2 objects side by side when I run the report. I'm just going to align them so they both appear at the top of the page and on the left. So now when I run the report, we'll see them side by side. If I hit run now, we'll just see the one list. We won't see the crosstab. It says no data available. That's right, because there's no data in there yet. So now to get started with building the crosstab, I'm going to go into my data items query, and here's all the objects that I want to place. So all you have to do is simply drag the columns one by one, if you like, onto where you want them to be placed in the crosstab. So to mimic the desired goal, I want to drag the year into the columns. I'll just display that. And then I'm going to drag the product type column into the rows area. And I let go in the mouse when it's over the rows. So now if I hit the run report, we'll have some data in there, but it doesn't quite match yet. Now for the measures area, this center part of the crosstab, we want to drag in eventually both of these, but I'll show you what happens if we just do one at a time. If I put the measure item here, it will just display a numeric field in the center, and it'll label this crosstab for us in the empty cell in the top left. Now if I run that report, it will look much closer anyways to what we're trying to see. So we want to add the revenue field in here. If I do that, if I drop it over this area, it's actually going to replace the quantity data with revenue. If I rerun that, now it's not going to be a numeric value, it's going to be a dollar value in that area. And it's also replaced that text. So how do we do that? How do we get both to appear at the same time? So in order to do that, we need to select both of those items and drop it just in between the year column and the measure of the body area. So when the cursor is blinking just like this here, that's exactly where I want to drop it. So be very careful with that, where that cursor is blinking when you do place items in here. So now we have quantity column and revenue column underneath each year. So now, and let's just ignore this. It didn't erase that for us. We can fix that later. It's really easy. Now when we run the report, we'll have both the quantity and revenue for each year of each product type. Okay, so now we're getting really close. Just going to add a little space between the list and the crosstab there. I want some space between them for readability. And as well, while I'm here, I'm going to right justify these cells. So the text is on the right hand column. Center justify this. And while I'm doing the edit, I'm going to add in the product into beside each product type. So a bunch of changes here coming. So product I'll place between or just to the right of product type, and again you want your cursor to be blinking at the right location. I don't want to place it here to the left of product type, I want to place it to the right of product type. So I let go and it appears a gray cell just like product type and year and quantity. Okay, and as well I wanted to right justify quantity and revenue so that text appears on the right hand side of the cell and the year to appear in the center. I also want to get rid of revenue here because that's kind of a misleading value. So I'm going to take the source type and just say text. And now all I have to do is double click this area and say quantity and revenue per year. Oh yeah, and sorting. So now I want to sort. I want the most recent year to appear on the left. So I'm going to sort this descending. The arrow down appears. And I also want to sort these two columns. And sorting a crosstab is different than sorting a list in that when I pick ascending for this one, I don't have to go into the options here to sort the second column, the product. If I pick ascending, it sorts that one as well as this one here. It's not removing this one and only keeping that one like a list does. So just be mindful of that. So now I think we're done, and it should be very similar, identical to the goal report that we're trying to use. Yep. So our data matches up to our goal. So that's how we can create our crosstab. And if you wanted to put a space in there, select that cell, the table. Let me make this larger. Select that cell of the table and pick size and overflow and put in 15 pixels. You could change it to inches or centimeters or whatever you're more familiar with and use that measurement as well if you like. So now if I rerun that, well, there's a 15 pixel space between the two areas. So that's one way to create a crosstab, to create it from scratch. There's another method using that shortcut button at the top. Let's try that right now. So I'll delete this, delete, and if we select that list, this button becomes available. And it gives you the instructions here, the selected list column, which must not be a measure. Measure is the numeric fields in the center, the body of the crosstab. So the selected list column becomes the crosstab column. So if you keep that in mind, we want the column to be the year. So I select that. and then click that button, pivot list to Crosstab. And it did everything exactly the way we wanted. We have to do a little bit of cleanup. We want to center, justify again, sort. We want to sort that descending, and this is already sorted. The list was already sorted that way, so if I hit the run button, again that's the same desired output as before. A quick overview of crosstabs and how they work. Next I'll go over filters for lists or crosstabs. They work very similar. Thanks.